Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Happy to have you all here. We have a very special man in studio. I can't wait to start the discussion. Thank you all. We have reached our milestone in terms of the 2K, and our next milestone is we're going to 10K. And as I said before, I can't do it without you. I am happy for your support. And just keep in mind that one of the reasons why we put together this platform, we want to inspire and we want to educate and we want to teach people the right way to do things. I am happy again to have you all here, and I look forward to having discussion. I'm excited about it. I met Justin in 2002, and this is the first time I'm actually telling this story. The first time I met him in 2002 when I relocated to North Carolina. And from the first time I met him, I knew he was special because of his humility. I remember the first time I met him, after the discussion, I told him I had a book that I would like to give him because I used to purchase a lot of Michael Johnson's book because he was a training partner. And because the information in that book was compelling, I felt that when I met someone who I felt could go all the way, that I would share that book with them. And I shared that book with Justin in 2002, the fall of 2002. And I knew from the start that he would be special. How special? The history speaks for itself. So I'm going to run the introduction. And after the introduction, we're going to bring Justin on stage. And then we're going to get straight into the interview. Let's go.
Justin Gatlin, a loving father, a disciplined son, a champion. Justin Gatlin, not just one of the greatest American sprinters, he is one of the greatest sprinters in the history of track and field, period. In 2003, immediately after leaving college, Justin quickly won the World Indoor Championship in the 60 meter with an impressive time of 6.46 seconds. In 2004, Justin became the fastest man in the world after winning the 100-meter gold medal at the Athens Olympic Games. Later in that same Olympic, Justin finished second behind teammate and training partner Sean Crawford in the 200 meters. In 2005, Justin impressively won the 100-meter World Championship in Helsinki, and later in that same championship, he won the 200-meter title, making him one of only few to accomplish such milestone. Between 2012 and 2019 alone, Justin Gatlin has won 11 world-class medals, 3 golds, 7 silver, and 1 bronze. The question that keeps lingering in my mind is what made Justin Gatlin so great? Was he born with an innate ability to perform on the big stage? Or did he condition his mind to train himself to win? How has Justin been able to dominate international sprinting for so long? What drives him to be so competitive? How was he able to develop such magnificent mental strength and mental endurance to compete at this high level with such great success? What is Justin Gatlin's secret? So without any further delay, it is with great honor and respect I welcome one of the greatest sprinters in the history of track and field, none other than the man, the champion, the legend. Put your hands together and welcome the one and only Justin Gatlin.
Hello, Justin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am so blessed. Glad that you could stop by.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, doctor. Because before when we were training, it was just training partner to training partner. Now you're a doctor, man. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. But one of the things I say that when it comes to let's start with Dr. Greg, it's never about me. It's about you. I want to shed light so the world can see you for who you truly are. And that is one of my goals. So I thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the show. But it is custom on this platform, Justin, that before we actually go into any interview, our guests get a chance to shout out whomever they please. So it is your moment. Is there anyone who have assisted you who you would like to acknowledge? It's yours. It's your time.
Oh man. I mean, at this point in time, I want to acknowledge my inner circle. My family, my wife, my kids, for always being by my side, pushing me forward to be stronger, better, as a person. But my fans, man, they're with you when you're down, and they're with you when you're up. And those true fans are the ones I really want to credit to a lot of my energy and passion that I put onto the track, because I want to give them back the attention that they've given me.
Excellent. I heard you have a documentary coming out pretty soon. Do you want to quickly elaborate on that so the audience can know what's going on? And I will also post your link in the description after this interview.
So we're working on the documentary, Untold, Justin Gatlin. It's about basically my whole career on and off the track, told by me. And I've been in the spotlight for a long time, and for me, I never got a chance to speak on what I felt my life was like or my career was like. And that's what I want to do in my documentary. And I'm going to also work on writing a book as well. So working on those things, the Justin Gatlin Foundation has been set. We have everything in place to be able to help anybody in the world that needs help in any kind of way, especially when it comes to sports. So we're working on a lot of things now.
I love that. I think as athletes, it's something that we should all do. If we are blessed, we should share the blessing. So I am definitely a supporter for what you're doing. Justin, I think you're special in a lot of ways. And I know that for a lot of us, we need inspiration in order to push on through. But considering the lengthy, illustrious career that you have had, I'm sure someone must have been there in the beginning to inspire you to run track. Who would that person be?
God himself. I mean, I come from a city in northern Florida that is basically a place for football, American football. So, everyone goes through the process as they grow up to be a young boy, and they have their manhood tested in playing American football. And I played American football at a young age. But I found track just because it was just there for conditioning for football. And I realized that track was something I really love to do. I really love to push myself. I really love to test the limits of who I am as an athlete and as a person. And other sports compelled comparison to track and field for me. So I just stumbled upon track, to be honest. No one ever said, hey man, you should run track. I didn't even know track even existed as an organized sport. And then I found it and I just fell in love.
A lot of people don't know that you were born in Brooklyn. What was it like, if you can remember the early experience growing up in Brooklyn?
I moved from Brooklyn when I was like 6, 7 years old. So my memory is pretty short being there. But I remember, memories of school. I remember memories of the playground. I remember lining my trucks up and jumping over my little fire trucks and everything like a hurdles. I was doing things like track and field before I even knew track and field even existed. I was racing kids in the neighborhood. I was beating them by far. Once they got on bike and I still was on foot, I still was beating them. So I was always testing myself. So those were my memories of just just being active, but inside of a city that's already active. So it kind of like fed me to be active as an athlete.
You know, a lot of people never heard of Pensacola, Florida. I think Roy Jones was one of the person who put Pensacola, Florida on the map. What was it like growing up in Pensacola, Florida?
I mean, if you can think of a difference of being in Brooklyn, New York, a big city, subways, buses, people everywhere, right? And then you move to Pensacola, Florida, where basically there's no sidewalks, basically. There's more trees than there are people on the road. And it just was a smaller country town, you know, and it was right there in the South, and it was slower paced than New York. But I fit right in. You know, I felt like I was able to stretch my legs and experience, you know, sports and experience like being outside more by being in Pensacola, Florida. I don't think I would have took on the track and field if I stayed in New York.
You went to a high school by the name of Woodham High School, and you competed in almost every event, I would assume. You were regarded as the fastest runner on the team. Did you have any aspiration to pursue a lifelong track and field career from then? Or it was something you're just good at?
You know, me, track came in my life because I made adult decisions. So I realized that I was good in track when I was middle school. I was okay, middle school. And then I got to high school and I realized that as a freshman, I was beating guys who were juniors and seniors already and winning like district titles. So for me, it was a decision to say, okay, I can get a scholarship. So I don't have to pay tuition. My parents don't have to pay tuition. We get a scholarship for track and field. So then that's when track and field became more of a tool to get ahead in life. And then once I got to college, I really fell in love with track. Like I really fell in love with it. Like being free, being on my own, being independent. And I had the will to work harder, you know what I mean? And learn more and be around athletes who were just as talented as me or more. And it kind of sparked something in me. So when I went from there to there, then I used track and field as a tool and said, all right, well, I got my scholarship here. I got to get my free education. Now where can I take it? I can take it and start making money from this. I can travel the world. You know, I can have a career in this. So it was really adult decisions that led me down the path of track and field instead of just saying at 6 years old, I wanted to be an Olympian. You know, I didn't even know what that was, but I felt good. I felt good walking this path of track and field.
You know, so you got a scholarship because most of the time people on the outside, they see that everything looks so great. But one of the things I find, Justin, is that the transition from high school to college is a very difficult one, especially if you lack guidance. But where we sit, for you, it seemed like it was a smooth transition from high school into the collegiate level. Is it actually true, or is the transition was a little bit difficult?
I don't know necessarily like on the physical level, was it more strenuous for me? Because I had my growing pains once I got to college. And when the hurdles to go from high school height to collegiate height, you know what I mean? I jumped it awkwardly already. So I looked kind of weird jumping in my red at college height. But then I grew, you know, that passion came. I wanted to learn more. Even if some of my teammates were older than me making fun of me, you know what I'm saying? Because I was a young guy or I was a rookie. It never deterred me from being a better athlete. I felt like that attention was needed for me to grow. But my ideology going from one world to another world, so going from high school to college to professional, I'm the rookie. I'm the freshman. I am the new guy on the block. I should never come into a situation thinking that I know what I'm getting into because I'm on the ground level. And that's how I took that opportunity and said, okay, I'm going into college. I know nothing. This coach is going to teach me. My teammates are going to help me. So I use all these tools around me to grow me as an athlete. And once these kind of things I learned from high school to college kind of like were parallel to each other, then I said, okay, I can leapfrog ahead because I knew that already. But once I came into the game, I didn't try to think I knew anything. I just soaked it all up like a sponge. Tell me more. Tell me more. So I've been like that. I've been a student.
Well, Justin, that is the level of humility that I'm talking about when I met you. That's the level of humility I'm talking about, where you seem like you were open to accept information, which is not something that we see readily accepted by some of the younger athletes. They feel like they are the king on the block and they don't need to learn. So I find that trait that you just display or mention, that is something that I think young people should really embrace. Where did you get that philosophy from?
My high school coach. My high school coach he was a guy who understood history. He understood how to get someone somewhere. Was he the kind of coach that always was there with you every day, making sure you're going through the workout, clicking the clock? He was more of a head coach who was delegating and regulating and seeing the vision that was right there. And then when it's time for game time, he would come and meet me at the track and say, all right, this is what you've been training for. Now it's time to go out there. So my high school coach really kind of taught me to respect my elders, respect the people that came before you, because how you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, and the people have got thus far. So now it's my responsibility to take us, further instead of just spinning our wheels, And I took that philosophy and ideology that my high school coach taught me, and I tried to use it on a college level. And it just so happened coincidentally, my college coach was just as passionate as my high school coach, but on a different level.
Okay. Well, one of the things I was thinking at the time, you could have gone to any university of your choice. Why University of Tennessee?
Let's put it like this. I tell people this story all the time. I went on a trip to LSU. LSU was an amazing trip. I got picked up in Jaguar. Stayed in a 4-star hotel.
Wow.
I got rained on at the football game, and some of the girls helped dry and wash my clothes right after the game. We ate barbecue on the lake house at the head coach at that time. He was staying on the lake house, and we ate barbecue there. Then you fast forward, and you go to Tennessee. I get picked up in this Jeep Cherokee. As soon as the door closes, the rear view mirror falls off. I don't stay in a hotel. I stay in the dorm, but I don't even stay in a bed in the dorm. I stay on a cot that's in the dorm that they wheel in and wheel out. I remember going to the club at night, and I don't know if my host liked me or not, but I was left in the club all by myself. I just remember having a conversation with the coach from Tennessee at the end of my trip. And I verbally committed to LSU, right? I was just like, I'm coming here. And then I still went on other trips, but I knew that I was coming to LSU. That whole Tennessee trip, I was like, nah, this is not where I want to be. And then having that conversation with that coach, he looked me in the eye before I got on my plane at the airport, and he said, Justin, I can't promise you multiple championships. I can't promise you a box of rings. But if you're built to have those things, I can make you the best athlete you desire to be. And I felt when he said that, it wasn't about the materialistic things, and it wasn't about getting me to a certain level. It was about him feeding me knowledge to be the best I can be. And if that means being an NCAA champion once or 7 times, then so be it. He was going to teach me as long as I was willing to learn. And that's what I learned from him. And I said, from that moment on, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm coming to Tennessee. And I felt like it was one of the best choices of my life.
And this is why I say, Justin, that you are special, because the youth of today, they would go after bling bling. It's not about the knowledge. It's not about the information. The evidence is pretty clear that the decision that you made to go to University of Tennessee was the right one, because within your first 2 years, you won 6 consecutive NCAA titles. And these are without a doubt remarkable achievements. How different would you say that your mindset, discipline, focus and drive was from your high school level?
All of it. I mean, I think as athletes, we all start with some kind of fire in us because we want to move to the next level. We want to test our abilities to be better. It just so happened that, we have those rare opportunities where we have a really good coach, and that coach helps us build that fire, helps that flame grow. And high school, I was just ready to compete. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to do hurdles. I did hurdles. I did high jump. I did long jump. I did 4x1. I did 200. I did 300-meter hurdles. I did everything you can think of, right? And I remember him telling me, now you have to learn how to be a king instead of being a jack of all trades. And so then from there, I started to figure out what was my best event and why would I do this event and how far can this event take me. So I always was forced to think ahead and think years on the road instead of thinking like right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think that's what coaches should actually do. It must be stated, Justin, that you became the first athlete since 1957 to win consecutive NCAA titles in both the 100 and the 200 meters. What kind of relationship did you have with your coach? And what did it take in terms of preparation for you to achieve such excellence?
I'm a true believer in not only should you train your body, but you also should train your mind. And those were the two key elements that I think that from a high school and college coach where they were very much the same. Before each big race, they would hold me by my shoulders and look me in my eye and say, "You're ready for this. You've been practicing, you've been training for this. You go out there, you know exactly what you need to do. Seize the day." And when they tell me these inspirational like speeches and pep talks, that was training my mind. That was telling my mind that it is time for me to compete. Because, as in track and field, especially in sprints, you only get 9 seconds. And that point in time was only 10 seconds. So I needed to train myself to turn on to compete at a level that I normally wouldn't because regular Justin was just happy with just being me. Mm-hmm. So I had to find that fire and had to turn that fire on. And those coaches knew exactly how to do that.
Brilliant. In 2002, you made the decision to leave college and go into the professional arena. What influenced you to make such a big move right before your junior year?
I felt that I accomplished everything that I could accomplish in college when it came to track and field. I won the 100 and 200, and then I backed it up and won the 100 and 200 again, and then I won the 2 and the 60 indoors. And then we won a team title my freshman year, and then we came back and won a team title indoor my sophomore year. So I felt like we mastered winning. We knew what winning was about. I knew what winning felt like. And then when you learn that winning can come that consistent, then you know what's going to happen next. Losing, because you're winning a lot. So losing's next. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be a loser, but I felt like my growth was at a point where I needed to take it to another level. And that's where it was time for me to turn pro.
Well, one thing we can say, though, that all of the decisions that you made from high school coming up, they were great decisions, because in 2002, you burst on the professional scene with a bang, and you won your first World Indoor Championship with an impressive time of 6.46 seconds in the 60-meter dash. One of the things I find with athletes coming out of college, going into the professional, that it is one of the most difficult transitions to make. And a lot of athletes fall short then. In your own words, Justin, how was that transitional experience for you in terms of funding, your support system, and the structure of team that you had around you? Because we know that a lot of athletes fail because they lack these critical ingredients. So in your own words, what was that transitional experience like for you?
That is a really good question because I've had two transitional periods in my career, professional career, and we're going to get down the road and touch on that too. But my first transitional was so easy. It was a dream come true. I was multi NCAA champion, and the sky was the limit for me. I was the new kid on the block. So for me, the transition was support wise was there because everyone wanted, to have a piece of me. Everybody wanted to be able to say, okay, I know Justin, or I train with Justin, or this or that or whatever. I think for me, when it came to the psychological change, I still felt like I was still kind of green, you know what I mean? Kind of still not really knowing what the professional realm was all about. I just wanted to run. That's all I cared about. I'm 20 years old, 21 years old, and I was just like, I can't wait to get out here and run around the world. And that's all I really cared about. The ins and outs really didn't, really wasn't hip to me. I really didn't try to learn about the inner workings until I got later on in my career. So the transition was good. I always said the same thing I always said to myself. I'm going to omit nervousness because everyone's nervous at the line. So that transition for me psychologically was easy because I knew what I was nervous about. So I fixed it. I was nervous about performing on a bigger stage, racing against people who I looked up to, like Maurice Green, Terrence Jamel, all these other people out here who I've seen run on television. And then the moment I line up against them, I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? Because I've studied them, I've watched them, I know how they train, I know how they compete, and now I'm just lined up against them. All I gotta do is, when the gun goes off, all I gotta do is go. Don't be nervous.
Yeah. Well, you say it sounds easy, but for me it was a nerve-wracking thing when I can't turn off the nervousness, and I know a lot of people, young people like yourself, struggle with that part of it, especially if they don't have the right group of people around them. The decision you made, Justin, it was the right one because you won your first Olympic 100-meter in 2004 with a personal best of 9.85. Most newcomers, based on what you're saying, would crack under these pressure, especially being at the Olympic for the first time. You were 22 at the time when you won that gold medal. What kind of mental and physical strength did it take to accomplish such a monumental task, Justin?
I was always taught by my dad that you can't witness history and you can't make history at the same time. Either you're in it and you're making history, or either you're sitting on the sidelines and you're witnessing it. So for me, I was dialed in. Everything made sense to me. It was like, okay, I'm training as a professional athlete because a company believes in me, and I'm training. My goal is to become an Olympic gold medalist. And so when I'm accomplishing these goals, it just felt easy to me. It's like, all right, once we get to the Olympics, why would I allow what I really truly desire to be a roadblock instead of being a bridge for me? This is why I'm here. This is why I train so hard. This is the reason why I went to college to turn pro, was because I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist. Now I'm at the starting line, and now the gun goes off. All I'm thinking is just do what I'm told to do and run and execute the race like I prepared to, and everything will unfold where it needs to unfold if I do it to 100% of my ability. So that's really how I looked at it. Mentally, I just said, let's just do what we came to do. That's it.
And in truth, that is the right way to look at it. I can tell you that when I talk with a lot of the athletes who see promising, they don't look at it the way you look at it, which is telling me that the way you look at it was the right way because you got the results along the way. In 2005, you won the US Championship, both in the 100 and the 200 meter, and you went to Helsinki and you completed the double, something that only two people have ever done in the history in terms of winning the double at the World Championship. I want you to tell us in your own words, Justin, what kind of preparation went into those performances, topping what you did, especially the year before at the Olympics?
Well, going into 2005, I wanted to kind of pick back off where I left off from college, which was able to dominate in a 100 and a 200 meter realm. And that was my whole goal in 2005, was to be able to go out there and try to capture the double like I did in college, just to show the world and show my fans that I'm able to still come out here and dominate at an even higher level. So that was my goal in 2005, was to be the champion in the 100 and to be the champion in 200.
Well, it worked. It's only few people have goals, really set goals, and are able to achieve those goals. In 2006, you became joint world record holder with Asafa Powell after you ran 9.76. Well, they canceled it, they evened it out and said that it was 9.77. I want you to take us through that event. I want you to tell us how confident you were going into the race and where your aim was to break the world record at that time.
My aim was to break the world record sometime in that year. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It wasn't to do it so early, but coming off of the season before, where at the end of the season, I think Asafa broke the world record then. So through the whole off season, I was so dialed in, I was so focused, because I feel like that was my next frontier anyway. You know, I was Olympic gold medalist, a double gold world champion. So the next thing on the list was to go after the world record, you know, and being that, I would say, my generational rivalry that I have with Asafa, you know, that's how we came on the scene. We were ducking each other out for wins and losses all around the world. Me and Asafa wasn't even running in the A races when we first started. We were running the B races, and usually B races are the ones that come early in the program where no one's really watching. But it was a couple times that me and Asafa, we both won the whole race, A and B race, from the B race. So that shows you how talented we were. We were able to compete with each other and exceed, the expectations of just being a B race runner. Mm-hmm. But going into 2006, my whole goal was, I want to get this world record. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that it was going to be a special night. I think just the stars aligned that night. It was in Doha, Qatar, so it was already warm. It was nighttime. It was probably like 9 o'clock at night, but it was already 85 degrees. You had a slight wind to your back, so it was like 1.6 or something like that, tailwind. We had two races, so we had a prelims and we had a finals. I ran the prelims and I came across the line, shut it down 10 meters before the finish line, and I tied my PR. So I remember walking back into the warm-up area from the prelims, and I was just like, everyone we was just white. We were like white as a sheet of paper. We was like, yo, do you understand what's about to happen? You understand? Like, I have so much more left in the tank to run faster. So everyone was quiet. It was just very quiet, getting ready for the finals. Because once again, like my dad told me, either you are making history or you're witnessing history. Mm-hmm. So in that moment, I had to figure out and say, okay, Justin, let's dial in. Let's give all we have. Let's go to that finish line. So once I got to the starting line, the gun goes off, and one of the opponents just bursts out the blocks. Here he has me beat by like, I don't know, 5 meters, 4 meters, something like that. And I'm trailing him at 65 meters to go. Or no, we just finished running 65 meters, so we have more to come, down the track. And in those last couple meters, I kind of overtake him. And when I overtake him, I just keep going through the finish line. And that's when I got my 9.7, got my world record. So
what was the feeling like?
It felt like I landed on a different planet. It felt like, because you achieved something that you never thought that was possible, and now you work hard for it, and then it's there. The results are there in front of you. So it's on a different planet.
Well, later that year in 2006. There was a urine sample of yours that tested positive for a banned substance which you denied knowingly taking. In your own words, Justin, can you tell us how devastating was that allegation to you? And could you also tell us how you find the strength to overcome that ordeal, because that must have been excruciating in a lot of ways emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, it was very devastating to the point where for years I couldn't talk about it. So even when this topic would come up, I would already start crying. Um, I had a lot of sleepless nights. Cried myself to sleep a couple, almost for a whole year. Um, I just remember saying, "Why me? Why me?" Because throughout my whole career, I felt like not I was the good guy, but more or less like I was help setting a tone of being a good sportsman, you know? And that's what I live by. Just being a good sport. If you win, you win. If you lose, you know? Just make sure you do it to the best of your abilities. If there's a better person out there, then so be it. You wasn't built to be the best person. So I've always stuck to what I've always said. I've never tried to gain an advantage over anybody. Um, and at the end of the day, it was more devastating for me, not because of me, but my family had to deal with that. My family had to defend me. My friends had to defend me for years, and knowing that they had to go through a smidge of what I was going through, that's what really hurt me the most.
Mm-hmm.
But things like that is what bring you closer together. Those
Mm-hmm.
kind of situations are that really test your strength, test your fortitude, it tests your bond that you have with people who are going to ride with you, who's going to leave you. So I think that me being away from the sport, it grew me as a man. I was able to find out who I was. And once I did make the decision to come back into the sport, I was confident in myself. I was
Mm-hmm.
confident in the person who I was. And I don't think I would have that ability at a younger age if I didn't walk that path.
I was watching an interview with you when I was preparing for this interview with you, and I saw where you had a conversation with your mother where she wanted to console you. And she told you that it was not about, well, while she was trying to console you, you told her that it was not about them taking away your accolades or undermining your achievement. And I got a little curious with the thing that you said after, because you said it was more about who I am as a person. Could you take us through that dark period when you made that statement and what you wanted the world to know in that private setting?
Um, I think that because my mom was just, like I said, my family went through everything with me. So when I hurt, they hurt, and vice versa. And I remember my mom said, "You don't owe this sport anything, and you have all your medals. No one has taken anything from you. You can walk away, and you don't owe nobody no money. You can walk away from the sport." And my mom is a Bronx woman, so a New Yorker. She was like, "They can tell them all to kiss your ass." That's what she said. But at the end of the day, it wasn't about those accolades and not owing anybody anything. That's not where my pride was really laying at. My pride laid to where I wanted the world to know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the world to realize the person that I am, not just the athlete, but the person I am. And I try to pride myself on that as well. So I knew that at some point in time, later on down in the future, at that moment when me and my mom had that conversation was probably like 2006 or 7, sometime around that time. And I knew later that I was going to be confronted by destiny on this situation. And I knew that if I walked away from this sport, not giving my all, it was going to haunt me. And I knew that I wanted a family and I wanted my children to be proud of the name that they bear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where one of the reasons why I work so hard to come back and work so
Mm-hmm.
hard to fight for what I believe the best of my abilities are.
And that is the perspective of a real man. Now, in 2010 and 2011, you decided to make a comeback. How hard was it for you? And most importantly, I want you to tell the audience this. How did it feel to step back on the track?
It was super hard. I think that my comeback was as hard or harder than being away from the sport. At least when I'm away from the sport, I felt like I was forgotten about. Like I would watch races and they wouldn't even talk about me. Like I didn't even exist anymore. And that hurts. That stings, like when people feel like you don't even exist, they try to wipe you away. But coming back into the sport was so hard because now I was not faced with just challengers on the track, but I was faced with challengers in the form of journalists, in the form of audience members, in the form of rival coaches, in the form of competitors. So people had it out for me, not only to beat me, but to try to even assassinate my character even more, and use me as a punching bag. So I had to grow this hard exterior where I had to protect the softer parts of me. You know what I mean? I knew I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be there, but I knew that Justin couldn't handle all this pressure and scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to build a persona that was who was still me. But when I stepped on the track, I didn't care about nothing but executing what my mission was. And
Mm-hmm.
that was Jay Gat. And a lot of people in the world, track and field world, know me as Gat. They call me Gat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Gat. When you see Gat out there and you see the fire in his eyes, that's the guy
Mm-hmm.
who took over to make sure that I stayed sane because
Mm-hmm.
it was such a dark time for me. I was blackballed from the Diamond League. I couldn't run the Diamond League. So I'm just running around anywhere in the world. I was running in races where it cost me more money to fly there than it was to even get to win prize money of
Mm-hmm.
any kind. So
Mm-hmm.
I I saw a different part of life in the sport that I didn't get to see in the beginning. Like I said in the beginning of this conversation, where the transition was easy for me because I was the golden boy at that. Now, I'm the prodigal son who returns. So now you
Mm-hmm.
look at me as I felt like I was looked at as almost a ghost or a leper or the man with the black hat. I was all these things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some people that come and talk to me and say, "Hey, man, you good?" Because they knew me as a person before everything went the way it did. But when I came back into the sport, a lot of them still was cheering me on and saying, "Hey, man, stay focused, keep your head down, do what you need to do, and you'll be right where you need to be." So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. I didn't worry about being blackballed. I didn't worry about the naysayers and the boos and everything like that. I just kind of focused on what my task was.
Mm-hmm. I am happy. I am happy that you had a mind like that because only those with a strong mind could really overcome some of those issues. In 2012, you returned to the indoor circuit to win your second indoor title in a time key 6.46, which was a time identical to when you made the transition from amateur into the pros. Now, this speaks a lot about who you are, Justin, as a person. How deep did you have to dig to pull this one off? And I'm sure that you purchased the Pick 3 lottery 646 because it's the exact same number. That was.
um, I was, I think I was delighted by the time because it was so funny that such a big gap in between me running in 2003 and winning indoors and running in 2012 and winning the indoor race. I raced a whole new generation of athletes, a whole new generation of athletes. And all I asked was to be able to get back in shape to compete at a high level. And I felt like I did that. And to hit the same number again with all those years in between, um, I think it was just the real definition of consistency, being consistent and be able to come back and do the same thing again years later.
Mhm. Mhm. I tell you, that show class and that shows character, because a lot of people don't get a lot of time in the sport, Justin, and you 9 years later coming back, digging deep and deep, and I'm sure that during this process you found a part of yourself that you didn't know existed. In 2012, at the London Olympics, you ran 9.79 to finish third behind Usain Bolt and Yuan Blake. You talk about a new generation. Now, at this point in track and field, it was clear that based on what Usain and others were doing, that the bar had been raised. How did you feel to be back on the medal podium once again, and also getting the bronze medal after running a blistering time? Tell us how you felt.
I felt honored to be back at that level. Um, when I watched Usain run in 2008, I was like in a little sports bar or something like that, and I remember the reaction to some of the athletes I was sitting with. They looked stunned. They looked in shock. They also had like fear in their eyes, all from a man who ran a time that they've never seen before, ever. And then that's when I realized that's why I need to come back to track and field, because when I saw that, what he did, it ignited a different passion in me. I was like, I want to race that guy. That's who I want to race. I want to race him. Not because I thought that I could beat him and I was better than 9.5. It was the fact that I wanted to test who I was. I finally saw what it felt like to see somebody who can push you to a level that you think that you've never been before. And at that moment, I'll say, I got to go back track and field. That's where my love is. I have to stand shoulder to shoulder with that guy and race him. I got to. And that started the journey. That started the journey of me, going back, and then boom, in 2012, I'm standing there shoulder to shoulder with him at the finals in London, and the gun goes off, and I just remember just stay focused, run my race no matter what happens. And halfway through the race, I'm approaching 50 meters. I'm like, oh, I'm winning it. Hold on. And obviously, Usain being Usain pulled it out. But it gave me a new hope, because I'm standing on the podium with a medal around my neck. And I felt grateful. I felt so grateful, because it's like I knew in my heart that I wasn't done. But a lot of people denied me. And by me having some kind of hope and really pursuing it, I was able to be back on the podium again. And that felt so amazing.
Well, it was like two warriors, Clash of the Titans, going up. And I know that when I watch your videos, I know that you look forward to the challenge. Um, in 2013, in the World Championship in Delhi, you finished second again behind Bolt with a time of 9.85. And you were now back in the thick of things in the term of track and field world. And by that time, Justin, you have been in the sport for almost a decade. You still have a lot of people wondering, how were you able to do it? I'm asking you the question, how do you manage to stay consistent after all these years?
I made track and field a lifestyle. Well, I think that a lot of athletes use it as a paycheck, or use it as recreation, or they just know that they're talented and they just do it because that's what all they know. I think being away from the sport and seeing what the real world was really about, it showed me that I'm lucky. I'm so lucky to be able to be a runner, to be an athlete. And I didn't want to take it for granted. So I think that coming back into the sport, I had so many obstacles in front of me, and all I knew was to face challenges, face challenges, face challenges. So I was on like autopilot, just facing challenges. So if it was on the track or media or away from the track, all I knew was I just got to keep moving forward, face the challenge. The only way you're going to get through the blizzard if you walk through it, So that's what really, really put me dialed in, was having that chip on my shoulder, but not letting it destroy me.
Well, I was looking at some of your interviews, and I'm going to tie in what you said, because when I look at your mind and I look at your level of discipline, I started to ask myself, because I heard you said that your father is a military man, henceforth I would assume that discipline was a major part of your upbringing. How much do you think that atmosphere that you grew up in molded you to become the athlete you are, in terms of the mindset, the commitment, the dedication, and determination?
Very much. I grew up in a household where it was no nonsense, and that was not just from my dad, but that was from my mom too. So, um, if you're going to do it, do all the way, and that's how I always was taught that way. So if you're going to commit to it all the way, and having that military, I guess, feel in the air growing up, it not only gave me structure and discipline, but also gave me a sense of pride too. It also showed me what it meant to be patient, what it meant to be, think things through, what it meant to set your goals and work through your challenges to meet your goal, because that's what it really mattered. So all those things I definitely contribute to my upbringing.
Definitely. And I would agree with that. But I can tell you, Justin, that the clash with you and Bolt, you guys took track and field to another level, because it wouldn't have been that excited just with Bolt. It required somebody like you, because in 2015, World Championship in China, we thought, well, you were the favorite because you were unstoppable. You were looking great throughout the season, and then Bolt looked as if he wasn't going to make it. What happened in that race? Because it looked as if you were going to win that race. Could you break it down for us?
I'll be totally honest with you. It was leading up to that race, I was heavily the favorite throughout the season. And that year I ran like maybe 5 or 6, 9 seconds, 9, 7 100-meter runs, like basically almost back to back. So, which never been done before. Not that many 9.7s ran in a season. And going into a championship, I remember so many people like, man, this is your year, this is your time, you got it. And I remember lining up at the race and doing the total opposite of everything I've been taught throughout my whole career, which was focus, dial in, you're here for your job, handle your business. I didn't compete, I raced that day. And when you race, you're just out there just running. And I was out there just running. And I remember coming like 10 meters before the line, and I start feeling Usain, and then I start stumbling forward, and I should have competed, and I let myself down. And that was probably one of the biggest upsets I've ever had. It was the biggest upset I've ever had in my life when it comes to racing. Like, because I was ready. I was ready for that moment, but I wasn't mentally there. I wasn't emotionally there. I thought that the physical that carried me through that season was strong enough to carry me across the line to win. But my spirit wasn't with that race.
And this is why it is always recommended for athletes to stay in the know, because when you're not in the know, you start having certain thoughts that cause you to stray. Well, in 2016, you were in the midst of things again, because you won the USA Championship, but in Rio Olympics, you finished second again behind Bolt. Now, we know that the competition between you and him was electric and fiery all at once. Honestly, were you disappointed after the result of the Olympics?
I was
or
disappointed.
Were you satisfied with your performance?
I was disappointed with my results in 15, and then that feeling carried through 16. Not to mention that in the fall of 15, after that season, I started training. I started doing jogging, like in November, December, getting ready for the new season of 16. I fractured my ankle. I had a hairline fracture in my ankle, and I was so afraid that I wasn't going to be able to make the Olympic team that I trained through it. I didn't even let myself rest. I literally got up, went to do an NBC shoot. I flew across the country with a fractured ankle. Didn't tell nobody.
Wow.
I did a whole video shoot. I thought it was gonna be a photo shoot, and I literally had to run on it. I still ran on it. came all the way back, started training for the season, and it started getting better. But then like it started messing with my form and my technique, and I think that was a start in 16 to where I should have made the decision just resting for at least a half a month, and it would have gave me what I needed. But I was just so thankful and grateful even making the team at the trials and winning trials, and then be able to get on that podium because I knew the moment I stepped in that hole at practice that I broke my ankle. I was like, oh, it's not going to happen.
And you see, sometimes when you have that mindset, you have to be careful too, because you may want to push yourself because the threshold for pain is so high and you may end up causing more damage. But there's always another day, because in 2017 at the World Championship, Justin, you won your second gold medal at the championship and you finally got the upper hand on Usain Bolt. How did you feel after that win?
Oh, man. So for everyone to realize at home who don't get a chance to watch track and field regularly, I raced Usain in 2013 in Rome, and I beat him in Rome. And then after that race, me and him never raced in normal season races ever again. So through the rest of my career from 13 on, I never saw Usain, only at the finals of championships. So if you look at the statistics, we only race one time a year. Unless it's an off year, we usually don't race each other. So in that moment in 17, I realized that I had to change everything from that fractured ankle, kind of threw my hip off. I wasn't able to run correctly. And it bled into 17. And then in 17, my hip flexor became weak because I was overusing it from having not ankle power. So then I had to change my whole form. So I couldn't be the starter that I needed to be, but I need to work on my top end speed and be a finisher that I used to be in college. And I started working and doing that and doing that and doing that. And then I was able to use that in the finals in 17. And it worked. It worked. You know, a new strategy that I was confident with and that I was able to execute. And that's what I needed to focus on from lane 8. He was in lane 3. Mm-hmm. I just relied on what the goal was. Back to what I was supposed to be. In 15, it wasn't me. In 17, that was me.
So how did you feel after the win?
It felt like home, because growing up and being a winner and winning multiple races, you get a sense of what it feels like to be a winner. Mm-hmm. And that feeling can be addictive sometimes. And once I crossed that finish line, it was an eerie feeling of being a winner again at the top level, you know? And I embraced it. I loved it. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of your fans enjoyed the win, because when we look at your history, it was deserved, you know, based on the work that you put in. In my opinion, Justin, you are the epitome in terms of longevity, discipline, dedication, focus. I think you should be one of the blueprint that they teach young people, your way and way of thinking in order to achieve great success, because you have done it. In 2019, at the World Championship in Doha, you became the oldest man at the age of 37 to win a medal in the 100 meter again. And you also won the gold in the 4x100 meter. Up to that point, my question is, how did you manage to keep your competitive edge among these ever-growing younger generation of top sprinters? Because I heard you said too, you're not going to hand anything over to them. They have to take it from you. So, how do you manage to stay so competitive year after year?
It's a job. It's a job that I signed up for. You know, when I know that I'm good at something, I want to compete, and I want to be. I might not be the best, but when you talk about that topic, you have to mention my name, and that's what I felt. I always feel that way. and that's what I work towards each year. I would try to find something either that's in my running technique that could be better, or my race strategy that could be better, or my training prepare for my season that could be better. And I used that each year, and I found something to work on to try to perfect, instead of having the monotony of doing the same thing each year, doing the same thing each year, and all the years bleed together. I didn't become one of the world's best starters until I was 30. You know what I mean? And usually people are retired by 30. So I became one of the best starters in the world, and that wasn't even my go-to thing. My go-to thing was top end speed throughout my first half of my career. So I changed and evolved, and that was the thing that keeps me competing, is that I'm always looking to evolve. I'm always looking to be having a more efficient arm swing or more power output from the ground. I've embraced the science of sprinting also, so it always brought me back because I felt like I can learn more. I can do more. I love it.
And I think it also comes down to your personality and the mindset as well, because when people are going down, you want to go up and you keep on pushing yourself. And it's not something that you find in people on a regular basis. I have two more questions, and I'm going to let you out of here, because in the 2020 Olympics qualification, you injured your hamstring, and I hope that the hamstring is healing and you're fully recovered within time to do whatever you want, because I feel like Justin Gatlin has the right to make any decision he chooses based on what he has done in the sport. What does the future of track and field look like for a legend like you, Justin?
Like, what's my next steps
Yeah.
going forward?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next with my life, my career. If that's go another year, I really would like to see if I can hang my spikes up at home. The first time the World Championships will be on American soil. It'll be in Oregon, where I have so much history, where I won my first NCAA title, where I won both of my uh, Olympic trials 100-meter titles. So I have so much history there in Oregon. So I felt like it would be poetic justice to be able to finish out my career where I've had so much success and so many fans there as well.
Well, I am going to make a prediction. American athletes always run great on their home soil. I personally think you have more in store, and I personally think that you are going to continue for one more year. I hope that you would do it. I think you are still a young man, because you have done it over and over. So I am cheering for you to do it. Do you think that the 4 years that you got off helped to keep your body fully rested, where you can continue to push it through for another year or two?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a gift and a curse in that process. I still stay active. I tried out for football. I still practice like I was getting ready for a track season. I did a little modeling. So I stayed active enough to keep my body in shape, but it just didn't go through the wear and tear of what a normal season running at top end speed would do to your body. So I think that coming back into sport, I didn't feel like when I felt 30, I actually felt 28, if that made sense. 27. So it was like I felt like I was frozen in time, and then I came back, I thawed out, and I was able to still compete. But I knew that I had to evolve as a person and an athlete to compete in this new world. So that was my goal and my task.
Okay. Based on your experience and what you have had to sacrifice to get to this height of greatness, I want you to tell the world, what does it take, Justin, to be a champion?
Believing in yourself, one. Because there's going to be moments where your closest friends and your closest supporters are going to doubt you at some point. It may be something small. It may be a lapse of judgment on their part, but you're going to be doubted by everyone in your life at some point.
Mm.
Believe in who you are. Bet on you. You know when you're ready, when you're not ready. And doing a couple of sit-ups here and there, that's not going to get the job done. You want to be a champion, you got to start living the lifestyle of what a champion is. That's where it is. Like finding out everything you need to know about yourself, your height to weight ratio, your power output, go into the science of things, you know. That's where you are going to find who you are and get to the next step. There's always going to be dark spaces and spots in our life or things that we can't get on our own, but it doesn't mean that you can't find the answer that's right there in front of you or someone that is in your circle can't help you. So bet on yourself. Believe in who you are. That's going to be the first start to being a champion.
Well, Justin, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking to me. I know I wish you all the best. And I want you to know that I will continue to support everything that you do. I will take your information for the documentary and I will make sure that I add it to here. I have one last thing to do before I go. This is, when I heard it, I was very impressed. And I thought that the audience and some of your fans too can hear it from you, because when I saw it, I'm like, wow, I didn't look at things that way. So I just want you to watch it before we go.
Okay.
And I just want to say again, thank you for coming. And I hope that we will continue to be friends and I will continue to support you in everything that you do. So here we go, Justin. Let's play.
Today we're going to talk about deja vu. Deja vu is something new that seems familiar. Voudage, you hear me? Voudage is something that is familiar that is looked at in a new way. Let that sink in. Okay? When we do things on a daily basis, it's something that we're always familiar with, right? But sometimes you got to go through the process every day. You lose the passion for it. You lose the love for it. You lose the drive for it. Voudage. Something familiar looked at in a new way. All right? Go out there. Something that you do on a daily basis. Look at it from a new viewpoint. Figure out how you can do it better. Create something new. A new passion for it.
I'm happy you're still here. Now, do you have any final thought you want to share with your audience and my audience? Mute. You're on mute.
There we go.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Dr. Greg, thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to talk to some people that I wouldn't have the opportunity to ever talk to, be able to tell a little bit of my point of view. I appreciate what you're doing with your audience. It's something that's really needed and missed in our world of sports, where we have a place where we can be able to open up and be human beings and to be able to show what our strengths are, but and also talk about our weaknesses. So Dr. Greg, thank you so much for bringing me on the show, and I hope to be able to come back again.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Justin. And it means a lot coming from you. And I definitely want to have you back on the show. I pray that God will continue to bless and keep you, your family, your wife, your children, your mother and father safe. Thank you for coming. God bless you all.
Take care, everybody.
Today we're going to talk about deja vu. Deja vu is something new that seems familiar. Voudage, you hear me? Voudage is something that is familiar that is looked at in a new way. Let that sink in, okay? When we do things on a daily basis, it's something that we're always familiar with, right? But sometimes you got to go through the process every day. You lose the passion for it. You lose the love for it. You lose the drive for it. Voudage. Something familiar looked at in a new way. All right? Go out there. Something that you do on a daily basis. Look at it from a new viewpoint. Figure out how you can do it better. Create something new. A new passion for it.